They locked me in a psych ward and went after my brother, knowing he had no one left to protect him. They used his own wedding to set a trap, to humiliate him. Then the bride's family sent him away to a retreat to learn his place. What they sent back was a body broken and battered beyond recognition. His sternum was caved in. The bones in his fingers were shattered. I can't stop thinking how much it must have hurt, how hopeless he must have felt right before he died. They must have forgotten. A diagnosed psychopath who commits murder might just walk free. I checked myself out, perfectly lucid. The Davenport family was it? Every single person who laid a hand on my brother, you'd better get ready. I'm going to make you pray for a death that will never come. I was in Ward 6 of the Riverview Behavioral Health Facility, in the room at the very end of the hall. Iron bars on the window, white walls, and the smell of antiseptic so strong it burned my nostrils. A nurse brought me an iPad.
Cole.
She said,
It's your brother Owen's wedding. He specifically asked that we let you watch the live stream.
I took it, my fingers trembling slightly. Owen. My Owen was getting married. The screen lit up. Owen stood on a stage buried in flowers, wearing a white tuxedo. He'd lost weight, but his eyes were still bright, sparkling the way they did when we were kids, and he'd managed to sneak a cookie before dinner. He kept glancing toward the camera. I knew he was looking for me. The bride's name was Brooke Davenport, the heiress to the Davenport fortune here in Pittsburgh. She was beautiful and arrogant, dripping with the kind of entitlement that only old money can buy. Owen and I grew up with nothing. No parents. I raised him. Then I got sick, and he was tossed into the foster system, bounced around between relatives who never wanted him. It made him soft. He smiled at everyone, a little too readily, always trying to please. The fact that he was marrying Brooke Davenport, I should have been happy for him, but a cold dread was settling in my gut. The wedding march was only halfway through when chaos erupted. A man, his face a mess of blood and grime, stark naked, sprinted into the ceremony. He dodged the gasping guests and threw himself at my brother's feet, slamming his head against the floor again and again. Thump, 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 blood smeared on the pristine white aisle runner. The man was sobbing.
Owen, man, I'm begging you. Call me whatever you want. You had your guys slash up my face. You tore up my clothes and threw them out. I'll never go near Brooke again, I swear. I'm not a threat to you anymore. Just please don't send me to that place. I'm begging you, let me go. I'll leave Pittsburgh tonight. I'll disappear.
The entire hall went dead silent. The live stream camera shook, but I got a clear look at Brooke's face. She was incandescent with rage, her eyes practically bulging from their sockets.
Owen!
She shrieked. She stormed forward and, in front of hundreds of guests, slapped him across the face. The crack echoed through the speakers. Owen stumbled back, stunned, one hand cupping his cheek. His eyes were wide with confusion and terror. He opened his mouth to explain, but no words came out. Brooke's father, Arthur Davenport, and her brother, Blake, surged forward with a team of bodyguards. Brooke pointed a trembling finger at Owen, her voice like a shard of glass.
Owen, you came from nothing. I took you in because I thought you were sweet and kind, because I felt sorry for your pathetic, spineless act. I fought my entire family for you, and this is who you are. A monster? Kyle Peters had a crush on me, and you couldn't handle it? You disfigured him, and we're going to have him committed.
No, Brooke, that's not. It wasn't me, I swear.
Owen pleaded, his face chalk white.
I guess I've been too soft on you.
Brooke wasn't listening.
Today, you're going to learn a lesson. The Davenport family does not tolerate vicious, backstabbing trash like you. Take him away. Send him to the Serenity Ridge retreat. Let him sit there and reflect on the sick piece of filth he is. He's not to set foot in my house again until he understands.
Two massive bodyguards grabbed Owen, dragging him away like a sack of garbage. He fought against them, his eyes locked on the camera, on me. He screamed.
Cole, help me.
Then they gagged him. The screen went black. My heart went black with it. Empty. The nurse tried to take the iPad back. I grabbed her wrist. A sharp snap echoed in the quiet room. She screamed. I didn't look at her. I just stared at the dead screen. Owen's last look, that desperate plea for help, was a serrated blade sawing back and forth across my soul. Vicious? My Owen, who would get upset for days if he accidentally stepped on an ant. Vicious? The man's name was Kyle Peters. Serenity Ridge Retreat. The Davenports. Brooke Arthur Blake. I memorized the names. 3 days later, the police called. I had to go to the morgue to identify Owen's body. They said he fell from a cliff on the grounds of the retreat. An accident. An accident. I stood before the cold steel table as the mortician pulled back the white sheet. Owen lay there. His face was a swollen, mottled canvas of purple and blue, new bruises layered over old ones. His cheekbone was shattered. A dark, sunken crater covered his chest. His ribs were gone, crushed. But what made my vision go red were his hands. All 10 of his fingers had been systematically smashed with a blunt object. The knuckles were deformed, the flesh torn and pulpy. His fingernails were gone, ripped out, just raw, bloody meat. This was an accident. This was torture. He was beaten to death. He was always so afraid of pain. The little kid who would run to me, crying to kiss his scraped knee. How much did it hurt? How hopeless did he feel before the end? Did he call my name? He must have. But his brother was locked away in a psych ward. The taste of blood filled my throat. I swallowed it down. Tears. There were no tears. Only ice. Shards of ice forming in my marrow, screaming at every cell in my body. Kill. 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 I turned and walked out of the morgue. A detective tried to stop me, offering his condolences. I had none to give. I went back to Riverview. I walked straight to the director's office. The door was unlocked. Dr. Evans was sipping tea and reading the paper. He jumped when he saw me.
Cole? How did you get out? Who let you out of your ward? Get back to your room now.
I walked past him and locked the door. I pulled up a chair and sat down opposite him. Dr. Evans sensed something was wrong. He put down his paper, shrinking back in his seat.
Cole, calm down. Let's just talk. You're not stable. You can't handle this kind of stress.
I picked up the expensive fountain pen from his desk. Sign this. I slid a piece of paper in front of him. A discharge form. My name was already on it.
I can't do that. Cole, your brother was your legal guardian. He just passed away. Legally, I can't release you. And your condition.
Crack. The fountain pen snapped in two in my hand. Ink splattered across the form like blood. I pressed the jagged, broken nib against the carotid artery in Dr. Evans's neck. It was cold. His body went rigid. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his eyes wide with terror. I looked right at him and spoke slowly, clearly. My brother, Owen Harrison, is dead. He was beaten to death. Right now, I, Cole Harrison, am not sick. I have never been more clear-headed in my life. You have two options. One, you sign that paper, stamp it, and I walk out of here quietly. We will never see each other again. Two, you don't sign. I shove this pen into your neck. Then I go down to your records office, and I find the ledgers detailing all the bribes you've taken from the Davenport family over the years, all the same people you've locked up, and all the truly sick ones you've let out. I'll send copies to the Post-Gazette and the State Medical Board. What do you think? Do you think the Davenports are in any position to protect you right now? I had no idea if he even kept ledgers, but I knew the Davenports had connections to this place. Owen had mentioned it once. Dr. Evans's face went chalk white. He was trembling like a leaf in a storm. He knew I wasn't bluffing. He knew that, locked in here, I understood better than anyone on the outside how to utterly destroy a person. After all, the mentally ill aren't responsible for their actions, right? The diagnosis they slapped on me was now my weapon.
I'll sign. I'll sign right now.
His hand, shaking violently, grabbed another pen and scribbled his signature. He fumbled in a drawer for the official stamp and slammed it down. The red ink looked like dry blood. I picked up the paper and blew on it. The pen nib left his throat. Dr. Evans slumped in his chair like a boneless puppet, gasping for air. I stood up and walked to the door. I didn't look back. Remember, Dr. Evans, I'm not sick. Now, I'm going to cure the ones who are. The door opened. The sunlight outside was blinding. I squinted. Owen, I'm out. Whoever touched you is going to die. The Davenports. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. The world is about to change. The sky was a perpetual gray drizzle when I walked out of Riverview. Pittsburgh fog, thick as unshakable grief. All I had was a few $100 Owen had secretly slipped me during his last visit and an old burner phone. First order of business, find a man named Kyle Peters. The one who crashed the wedding, his face covered in blood. He was the trigger. Owen's death started the moment he fell to his knees, the moment Brooke's hand struck my brother's face. I wasn't sick. My mind was a razor. I remember the name of the hotel from the live stream background, the Grand Excelsior. I took a cab. The moment I mentioned the Davenport wedding, the hotel manager's face soured with annoyance and suspicion.
Who are you? That event was canceled. The Davenports gave strict orders that no one was to ask about it.
I gave him a dead-eyed smile. I'm Owen Harrison's brother, Cole. My brother is dead. The manager's expression shifted instantly from irritation to alarm, mixed with a flicker of pity and a large dose of fear. In Pittsburgh, the Davenport name could move mountains and bury bodies. I don't want any trouble. I said, my voice low. I just need to know where the man who crashed the party, Kyle Peters, went. He was bleeding. He must have gone to a hospital. I slid $200 bills across the counter. It wasn't much, but my gaze told him it was smarter to take the money than to deal with the alternative. He flinched, then snatched the bills.
We called an ambulance. They took him to Mercy General Northside campus. I heard it was just superficial cuts, but the guy was hysterical. Someone from the Davenport family came and picked him up later. That's all. I know, I swear.
The Davenports picked him up. Of course. They were all in on it. I went to Mercy General. Hacking into their patient database wasn't difficult. In Riverview, I had nothing but time, and coding was my only escape. There he was. Kyle Peters, 26. Multiple facial lacerations, mild concussion. Discharged 2 hours after admission into the care of a family member listed as Blake Davenport. The discharge papers included an address, the overlook at Mount Washington, a luxury condo building. Blake Davenport, Brooke's brother. It all clicked into place. This wasn't something Owen did. This was a setup, a play staged by the Davenports themselves. But why? To ruin the wedding. To humiliate Owen. Why did they have to kill him? The ice in my chest twisted a sharp physical pain. The image of Owen's mangled hands flashed in my mind. I had to know the truth. I slipped into the overlook easily. It's amazing how invisible you can be when you just act like you belong. Tower B, apartment 2201. I rang the bell. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door. I could hear faint breathing inside and the low murmur of TV. He was in there, too scared to open the door. I didn't ring again. I took out my tools. 3 seconds later, the lock clicked open. I pushed the door ajar. A wave of stale air, cheap whiskey, and instant ramen hit me. The living room was dark, the blackout curtains drawn tight. A man was curled up on the sofa, hair matted, bandages wrapped around his face. It was Kyle Peters. He heard the door and shot up like a startled rabbit.
Who's there?
When he saw me, he froze.
Who? Who are you?
I stepped inside, closed the door, and threw the deadbolt. My name is Cole, Owen Harrison's brother. The name Owen made the color drain from his face. His legs gave out, and he collapsed back onto the couch.
What do you want? Owen. What happened to Owen? It had nothing to do with me. Nothing.
He stammered, clutching his head. I walked over and crouched down to look him in the eye. Kyle, my brother is dead. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with genuine shock.
Dead? What do you mean, dead? Blake just said they were taking him to some retreat for a few days, just to teach him a lesson. How could he be dead?
He wasn't acting. He was part of the plan, but he didn't know the ending. A pawn, a useful idiot. I stood and surveyed the apartment. It was expensive, but had the sterile, temporary feel of a place no one called home. Blake Davenport set you up here? Paid you? Kyle avoided my gaze, mumbling.
Blake said he'd give me $1 million to leave Pittsburgh after it was done. He said Owen was a gold-digging piece of trash who stole his sister and needed to be taught a lesson. To be so humiliated, he'd never show his face again. The cuts. Blake had his guys do it. Said it had to look real. The clothes, too. I was just playing a part. I didn't know anyone was going to die.
His sister? Blake's motive was just that he thought Owen wasn't good enough for Brooke? It clicked. The whole ugly picture. Blake despised Owen. This wasn't about protecting Brooke's honor from a suitor like Kyle. It was about destroying the lower-class nobody who dared to join their family. Blake, a sadistic puppeteer, used Kyle as the bait and Brooke's explosive temper as the weapon. He engineered the perfect public implosion to get rid of Owen. But things escalated. Maybe Brooke's reaction was more violent than he anticipated. Maybe the goons he hired to teach Owen a lesson at the so-called retreat went too far. Or maybe killing Owen was Blake's plan all along. My brother, my kind, gentle brother, was just a disposable piece in their sick game because he was poor and had no one to stand up for him. Rage burned through the ice. I looked at Kyle. The Serenity Ridge retreat. Where is it? Who was there? Kyle shook his head frantically.
I don't know, I swear. Blake just told me what to say at the wedding. He handled everything after that. He told me to hide here and not go anywhere.
What was your relationship with Owen? I asked. His eyes darted away.
We were just acquaintances. We had a drink a couple of times.
A lie. I picked up a fruit knife from the coffee table. The blade gleamed. My brother's 10 fingers were shattered. His sternum was caved in. He was beaten to death. Kyle, that performance you gave, those crocodile tears. You handed the Davenports the weapon. You're an accessory.
No, I'm not. I didn't know.
He scrambled backward, trying to run. I was on him the second, grabbing a fistful of his hair and slamming his face down onto the coffee table. Where was he taken? Who did it? My voice was a whisper, like ice scraping against glass.
I really don't know. Please, let me go. I'll go to the cops. I'll testify against Blake.
Too late. The knife traced a line across his cheek, mirroring the wounds he already had. He screamed. Testify? Against the Davenports? Your word is worthless. I just want the truth. I'll handle the rest myself. I grabbed his phone and used his thumb to unlock it. I scrolled through his calls and texts. There it was. Blake's number and a few messages. Good job. Lay low. The money's coming. Things are hot right now. Don't go anywhere. The Owen thing was an accident. Keep your mouth shut. An accident? I let out a cold laugh. There was another text, a location pin sent from Blake to a contact named Scar. It was sent the night Owen was taken. The pin was for an abandoned B&O railroad tunnel in the hills south of the city. The Serenity Ridge retreat? It never existed. It was a lie. They took Owen straight to that tunnel. Scar. He was the one who did it. Kyle was still whimpering. It was annoying. Owen's screams must have been 1,000 times worse. You wanted to disappear, right? I looked down at him. I'll help you. You wanted to be an actor. Your face was your prop. Fine. I grabbed his chin. The fruit knife was a blur. I'm no surgeon, but I know how to inflict maximum pain without granting the release of quick death. The bandages on his face turned crimson. The new wounds were much deeper than the old ones. He couldn't scream anymore. His throat was raw. Shh, quiet now. I dragged him to the balcony. 22nd floor. The wind howled. Below, the manicured lawns of the complex. The police said Owen died in a fall. An accident. I pushed him over the edge. A brief, choked cry, then a sickening thud. The world went quiet. I took out my own phone and made sure the recording of Kyle's confession was saved. Every word about Blake's plan, about his own ignorance of the murder plot. Then I threw Kyle's phone off the balcony. It shattered on the pavement below. One down. Kyle Peters' accessory. A suicide driven by guilt. I closed the balcony door and washed my hands. The water was ice cold. Next target, Scar. The abandoned railroad tunnel. The men who laid their hands on my brother. I'm going to make them feel every bit of pain Owen felt. 10 times over. 100. The old B&O tunnel deep in the Allegheny Hills. The GPS coordinates were precise. This place was desolate. Weeds grew thick and wild. And at night, the darkness was absolute. A perfect place to kill someone and dump the body. Blake Davenport chose his locations well. I stood at the mouth of the tunnel. A wave of mildew and something else, something coppery and foul, hit me. It wasn't my imagination. It was the lingering stench of blood. My Owen spent the last, most agonizing moments of his life right here. He must have been so cold, so scared. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms. I didn't feel it. That pain was nothing. I stepped into the tunnel. It was pitch black. I switched on my phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating dark, rust-colored stains on the concrete floor. They were everywhere. Dried, blackened blood. Splatter patterns on the walls. In a corner, a pile of discarded tools. Splintered 2x4s. A length of rebar stained with blood, and a sledgehammer. A sledgehammer. I walked over and picked it up. The head was crusted with dried blood and a few strands of hair. Dark, soft hair. Owen's hair. I closed my eyes. I could see it. Owen tied up. These animals, circling him with clubs, rebar, the sledgehammer, bringing them down on him again and again. On his chest, on his fingers, his screams, his pleas for mercy, his tears. They were nothing but entertainment for these monsters.
Cole, help me.
Owen's voice echoed in my head, so clear, so full of despair. I opened my eyes. They were burning. I had to find them. This man, Scar, and his crew. They were Blake Davenport's muscle. Finding them wouldn't be impossible. The Davenport family had their hands in everything, much of it illegal. Casinos, nightclubs, loan sharking. I spent the next few hours digging online, scraping data on the Davenport shadow operations, hacking into a few private servers and dark web forums connected to their associates. I finally pinpointed the place Blake frequented most, an underground fight club in the Strip District called the Foundry. Scar was one of their top fighters, Blake's go-to guy for jobs that needed to stay off the books. 10 p.m. The Foundry. The bass of the heavy metal music vibrated in my teeth. The air was a thick cocktail of sweat, booze, and cheap perfume. In the center cage, two men were beating each other bloody. I spotted him immediately. Scar. He was in the front row VIP booth, a long, ugly scar running down his left cheek. He was shirtless, his body a mass of muscle and crude tattoos. He had his arm around a woman, throwing his head back and laughing as he chugged a beer. 3 or 4 other men sat with him, all with the same predatory look. Judging by their size and swagger, this was the whole crew, the ones from the tunnel. 5 of them. Good. Saves me the trouble of hunting them down one by one. Blake wasn't here. Even better. No distractions. I went to the bar and ordered a shot of whiskey. I threw it back. The burn was nothing. Not nearly enough. Only their blood would be enough to quench the fire in my soul. I slipped around to the back. The service corridor. It led to the fighters' locker rooms and the emergency exits. I found a main breaker box and yanked the lever down. Clang. The Foundry plunged into darkness. The music died. The crowd erupted in a chorus of shouts and curses.
What the hell? Power's out. Are you kidding me?
Scar and his crew were on their feet, swearing.
God damn it, right when it was getting good. Let's go check it out.
In the blackness, my eyes were adjusted, sharp as a wolf's. I was waiting for them. The emergency lights flickered on, casting a sickly yellow glow, just enough to see silhouettes. Cursing, Scar led his 4 men into the service corridor, heading for the breaker box or the exit. They were coming to me. I stood in the deepest part of the shadows. The first man walked past me. I moved. One hand over his mouth, the other twisting his neck. A sharp, wet crack. He went limp without a sound. I dragged him deeper into the shadow. The second man was right behind him.
Hey, Mikey, what's the hold up? Let's go.
The only answer he got was the rebar in my hand. The same piece of rebar from the tunnel. Thwack. It connected with the back of his skull. He didn't even groan before he hit the concrete.
What the hell was that?
Scar was on high alert now. He and the remaining 2 men huddled together, pulling knives from their belts.
Who's there? Show yourself, you son of a bitch.
I stepped out of the shadows, the bloody rebar held loosely in my hand. The emergency light illuminated my face. Scar squinted, then his eyes widened in vague recognition.
Who the hell are you?
My name is Cole. I said, my voice raspy. I'm here to settle a debt. The dried blood on the rebar glinted under the yellow light. Suddenly, something clicked in Scar's memory. His pupils shrank.
You're Owen's crazy brother, the one in the loony bin.
He remembered. Blake must have mentioned me when he gave the order, dismissing me as a non-threat. Crazy. I smiled, but it was all teeth. The sound echoed in a narrow corridor. That's right. I am. Tell me, I said, taking a step forward. When you were in that tunnel, beating my little brother, did you enjoy it? The faces of Scar and his two remaining thugs turned grim. They knew this wasn't a random mugging.
Guys, this psycho's for real. Take him.
Scar roared. 3 men, 3 knives, 1 target. They rushed me. I had to move back. This is what I wanted. The fire inside me needed to be unleashed. I swung the rebar in a wide arc. It whistled through the air and slammed into the wrist of the first man. Crunch! The knife clattered to the floor. He screamed, clutching his shattered hand. I kicked him square in the chest. He flew backward and hit the wall with a sickening thud, then slid to the floor, motionless. The second man lunged from my side. I pivoted, letting his knife slash through empty air. I swept the rebar low, catching him behind the knees. He buckled, crashing to the ground. I didn't stop. I raised the rebar high and brought it down on his hands. Again, and again, and again.
Ewa.
His screams were animalistic. The sound of splintering bone, the sight of mangled flesh. Just like they did to Owen. Did it hurt, Owen? I'm making them pay. Scar was frozen, his face a mask of disbelief. He never expected this level of vicious, focused violence. He feinted with his knife, then spun around to run. Run? I hurled the rebar. It hit him squarely in the back, and he stumbled forward. I was on him in a second. I reached down and picked up the sledgehammer I'd brought with me, the one from the tunnel. I grabbed his hair and slammed him face first onto the concrete. Scar. I hissed, my face close to his. My brother's chest. Was it you? Did you use this? I raised the hammer. Terror finally broke through his bravado.
No, it wasn't me. It was Blake. Blake Davenport told us to kill him. He said the little punk had it coming for messing with his sister. Please, mercy. Have mercy.
Blake Davenport. I knew it. He didn't just want to ruin the wedding. He wanted Owen dead from the very beginning. Mercy. The hammer fell. Crunch. It landed on his chest, the sound of his ribs giving way. He coughed, spraying blood. I didn't stop. Once, twice, 3 times, just like Owen. A caved-in chest. His blood splattered my face. It was warm. I looked into his dying eyes. Go to hell, and when you see my brother, you beg for his forgiveness. The only sound in the corridor was the gurgling of the man whose hands I had destroyed. I walked over to him. I picked up one of the knives. You're making too much noise. A single, clean motion. Silence. 5 of them, all accounted for. I dragged their bodies, one by one, back to the abandoned railroad tunnel. They seemed to like this place so much. They could stay here forever. I found their phones, went through them until I found Blake's number, and sent him a text from Scar's phone. Job's done. Where's the rest of my money? Then I smashed all 5 phones to pieces and scattered them deep in the woods. I stood at the mouth of the tunnel and stared into the darkness. Owen, the animals who touched you are gone. My hands are filthy now, little brother. But I have no regrets. This was just the beginning. The hired muscle were just tools. The real monsters, Blake, Brooke, and the entire rotten Davenport family, they were next. I was going to burn everything they had to the ground. Their money, their power, their reputation, their pride. I would leave them with nothing but despair, and then they would join my brother in the dark. Next up, Blake Davenport. Hashtag 4 Scar and his crew were gone. Vanished into thin air. The people at the Foundry just figured they'd skip town to dodge a debt or a rival gang. Thugs like them disappeared all the time. No one filed a report. Blake got the text from Scar's phone. He probably cursed the greedy son of a bitch for demanding his money so soon. But, believing the loose ends were tied up, he transferred the final payment to an untraceable crypto wallet Scar used. He had no idea he was paying me. The money would make a nice little war chest, using the Davenports' money to destroy the Davenports. I like that. Blake Davenport, first son and heir. Arrogant, cruel, with a taste for violence. He managed the family's dirtiest secrets. To take him down, brute force wasn't enough. Killing him would be letting him off easy. I wanted him ruined. I wanted his name to be synonymous with filth. I wanted him to live in constant, gnawing fear until the very end. Fear is the most potent poison. Step 1. Let him know he was being hunted. Using an encrypted email service, I sent him a single photo. It was a picture of the 5 bodies piled up in the railroad tunnel. Scar was on top, his chest a sunken ruin, his dead eyes staring at the camera. Below the photo, I wrote one sentence. "You're next." The reply came almost instantly, furious and panicked.
Who the hell are you? You touched my people. You're dead.
I didn't respond. Step 2. Cut off his arms and legs, sow chaos in his ranks. Blake had other lieutenants besides Scar, men who ran his illegal gambling dens, his loan sharking operations, and his nightclubs. I hacked their phones and laptops. It was a gold mine. Encrypted ledgers from the casinos, videos of brutal beatings dealt out by his debt collectors, evidence of women being drugged at his clubs, and the jackpot. Chat logs where Blake himself ordered hits, discussed money laundering schemes, and arranged drug shipments. These people were scum. They deserved everything that was coming to them. I compiled all the evidence, packaged it neatly, and sent it anonymously to 2 places: the FBI's Organized Crime Task Force and the Davenport's biggest business rival, the Moretti family. I could play their games, too. The Morettis and the Davenports had been at each other's throats for decades. With this kind of leverage, the Morettis wouldn't hesitate to go for the kill. 3 days later, all hell broke loose. The FBI raided Blake's clubs and warehouses. Arrests were made, assets seized. Simultaneously, the Morettis launched a hostile takeover bid on the Davenport's flagship company, leaking tidbits of the scandal to the financial press. The Davenport empire began to crumble. Arthur Davenport had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. Blake was trapped in a nightmare, scrambling to put out fires. He knew someone was behind it all, but he couldn't find me. He started to unravel. He suspected the Morettis. He suspected an insider. He even started raving about the ghosts of Kyle Peters and Owen Harrison coming back to haunt him. He couldn't sleep. He saw shadows in every corner. He surrounded himself with bodyguards 24/7. He emailed me again, his tone completely changed.
Friend, what do you want? Money? Name your price. Just leave me alone.
I replied with a single attachment. A photo of Owen from the morgue, his hands mangled, his chest destroyed. My message: I want your life. That broke him. He knew this wasn't about money. This was about retribution. He decided to run. He arranged for a smuggler's boat to take him to the Caribbean. But I wasn't going to let him escape. His phone, his computer, his entire digital life belonged to me. I knew the time, the location, the name of the boat. The night he planned to leave, a cold rain was falling. Blake, jumpy as a cat on a hot tin roof, showed up at a derelict industrial dock on the Monongahela River with 2 bodyguards. A rusty freighter was waiting. Just as he was about to board, I emerged from the darkness. The rain plastered my hair to my forehead. Leaving so soon, Mr. Davenport? When he saw my face, he screamed like he'd seen a ghost.
You! It's you! Owen's psycho brother. What the hell do you want from me?
His bodyguards moved to shield him. I looked past them, my eyes locked on Blake. My brother Owen, he was afraid of the dark. He hated the cold. Did you think about that when you sent him to that tunnel?
It was an accident. Scar and his guys, they got carried away.
Blake sputtered, still trying to lie his way out. Kyle Peters told me you staged the whole thing. Scar told me you gave the order to kill him. Who are you trying to fool, Blake? I held up my phone and played the audio recordings I'd taken of Kyle's and Scar's last words. Their terrified confessions echoed across the rainy dock. The last bit of color drained from Blake's face. He knew he was finished.
Kill him. For God's sake, kill him.
He shrieked at his bodyguards. They charged. I didn't even need a weapon for amateurs like them. It was over in seconds. They were both on the wet ground, groaning, their limbs bent at unnatural angles. I walked toward Blake. His legs gave out. He collapsed into a puddle of grimy water, a dark stain spreading across the front of his pants.
Don't kill me. I'll give you anything. Money, the company, all of it. Please.
This powerful, untouchable heir, who stood on the bodies of others, was now just a pathetic dog begging for its life. Disgusting. I crouched down and grabbed his chin, forcing him to look at me. Your money? Your life? I'm taking it all. Listen close. Can you hear them? Scar and the others are calling for you from below.
No.
I took a tiny microchip from my pocket, a GPS tracker and listening device, and slipped it inside the collar of his jacket. Then I knocked him unconscious and left him lying on the dock. I took his phone and sent 2 texts. One to his father, Arthur, and one to his sister, Brooke. Dad, Brooke, it's Owen's brother. He killed all my men. He's coming for me. Help me. I'm at the old South Side docks. At the same time, I dialed 911. Yes, I'd like to report a crime. Blake Davenport of Davenport Industries hired a crew led by a man named Scar to murder Owen Harrison in an abandoned B&O tunnel. Davenport then had Scar's crew killed to cover it up. Their bodies are still in the tunnel. Right now, Blake Davenport is at the old South Side docks, attempting to flee the country. I've sent all the evidence, recordings, photos, financial records, to the FBI's task force. I ended the call and melted back into the night. The police arrived first. Then the Morettas, who had clearly been tipped off, arrived with a horde of reporters. Finally, Arthur and Brooke Davenport pulled up, their own security in tow. The scene they found was pure chaos. Blake, passed out in the mud, his bodyguards writhing in pain, and the flash of cameras capturing every humiliating second. Blake Davenport, heir to a Pittsburgh dynasty, caught trying to flee the country after committing a brutal murder for hire. The evidence was overwhelming. He wasn't getting away. He'd get the death penalty or life in prison. But that wasn't enough. I wanted him to live in terror, even behind bars. I reached out to some old friends from Riverview. You meet all kinds of people in a place like that. The networks on the inside are sometimes stronger than those on the out. I transferred the rest of Blake's payment, the money meant for Scar, to them. My instructions were simple. Take care of Blake Davenport for me. Make his life a living hell. Broken bones, daily beatings, the kind of psychological torture that shatters a man's soul. Every ounce of pain he inflicted on my brother, he would now feel day after day, year after year. Blake Davenport was finished. One half of the Davenport empire had fallen. That left the other half. Brooke and her useless, dying father. But especially Brooke. Owen loved you so much. That slap, those words, vicious trash. You personally shoved him into his grave. You, more than anyone, deserve what's coming. Blake's arrest was the talk of the town. The evidence was ironclad. Scar's crew was found in the tunnel, their injuries matching Owen's, and with my anonymous tips, the D. Had a slam-dunk case. Blake was charged with conspiracy and first-degree murder. The Davenport stock plummeted into junk status. The sharks started circling. The Morettas initiated a full-scale corporate raid, swallowing up Davenport assets for pennies on the dollar. The FBI's investigation uncovered decades of corruption, racketeering, money laundering, tax evasion. Arthur Davenport, under police guard in his hospital room, heard the news and suffered a massive stroke. He was left paralyzed, unable to speak. The rats fled the sinking ship. In a matter of days, the Davenport dynasty, a name that had defined Pittsburgh for a century, was nothing but ash. The only one left standing was Brooke. She wasn't directly implicated in Owen's murder. Blake, terrified of what I'd do to him in prison if he snitched, took all the blame. The police had nothing to hold her on. But she had lost everything. Her money was gone, her status erased. Her proud brother was a convicted killer on death row, her powerful father a drooling vegetable. And her wedding, the one she had so dramatically destroyed, was now a national headline, with the groom as the tragic victim she'd sent to his death. She had fallen from the heavens into the gutter. The media was merciless. The Davenport debacle, heiress of horror, tragic groom murdered by bride's brother. Brooke Davenport. Did her slap sign his death warrant? She was a pariah. She hid in the family's last remaining mansion, a prisoner in her own home. But this was only the beginning. I wanted her to watch the world she knew turn to dust. I wanted her to pay for her arrogance and her unforgivable cruelty. I sent her a package. Inside were Owen's things, his favorite white shirt, still stained with dirt and blood from the tunnel. The old watch he'd worn for years, its face shattered, the hands frozen at 2 a.m., the time of his death. And a photograph of the two of us as kids, grinning at the camera, our eyes full of light. On the back of the photo, I wrote a message in a perfect imitation of Owen's handwriting. Brooke, I don't blame you. But it hurts so much. I knew his handwriting better than my own. The package broke her. She started texting my burner phone, a frantic, unhinged stream. Who are you? You're a monster. Cole, is this you? Show yourself. I didn't reply. Instead, every night at exactly 2 a.m., I sent her an audio file. It was Owen's voice, an AI clone I'd created from old voicemails.
Brooke, they're hitting me. It hurts. Brooke, my fingers are broken. Brooke, why didn't you believe me? Brooke, help me?
His pleas echoing in the dead of night, like a ghost crying out for justice. She was losing her mind. She called the police, claiming I was harassing her. They came, but they found nothing. The text, the audio files, all routed through a dozen encrypted servers. Untraceable. The police told her to see a therapist. She stopped sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Owen covered in blood. She saw her own hand striking his face. She heard her own voice spitting those venomous words. The images played on a loop in her head. Kyle's bloody face, Scar's dead eyes, her brother's arrest, her father's stroke, the collapse of her entire world. She was finally beginning to understand that it all started with her. Her pride, her prejudice, her refusal to trust the one person who truly loved her. She had killed Owen, and in doing so, she had destroyed everything. Regret was a snake, eating her alive from the inside. But it wasn't enough. I wanted her to confess her sins to the world. Blake's sentencing hearing was scheduled. This was my chance. I tracked down the wedding videographer. A little cash and a few veiled threats were all it took to get the raw, unedited footage from the ceremony. Every angle, Kyle's dramatic entrance, Brooke's vicious slap, every word she said, Owen's desperate, pleading eyes as he was dragged away. I edited the footage into a devastating timeline, and the day before Blake's sentencing, I released it. It went viral on Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube in a matter of hours. The title was simple and brutal: The Davenport Murder, the wedding video that shows how it began. I spliced in the audio of Kyle's and Scar's confessions, proving that Blake had orchestrated the whole affair and that Brooke had been the one to light the fuse. Public opinion, which was already against her, became a tidal wave of hatred.
Murderer. Accessory. That woman is pure evil. Someone get justice for Owen.
Her mansion was besieged by protesters and news crews. The psychological torment, combined with the crushing weight of public condemnation, finally shattered her. The day of the sentencing, I was in the courtroom, sitting in the back. When they brought Blake in, he was a hollowed-out shell of a man. His eyes were vacant, his body covered in bruises. He saw me in the crowd, and a tremor of pure terror went through him. He knew his hell was just beginning. The judge read the verdict. Multiple counts of conspiracy and murder. The sentence was death. Arthur Davenport, due to his medical condition, would serve his sentence under house arrest. A prisoner in his own useless body, his fortune seized by the state. Just as the judge banged the gavel, the courtroom doors flew open. Brooke stumbled in. She was wearing her wedding dress, the one she'd worn that day, now torn and stained. Her hair was a wild mess. Her makeup smeared down her face like war paint. She looked like a specter. She ran to the center of the courtroom and collapsed to her knees.
I'm guilty.
She screamed, her voice cracking with hysteria.
It was me. I killed Owen. I didn't believe him. I told them to take him away. It's all my fault. Owen, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
She bowed her head and slammed it against the marble floor, again and again, a bloody spot blooming on her forehead.
I'm the vicious one. I'm the trash. I'm guilty. Your Honor, sentence me. Give me the death penalty. Let me pay for what I did.
She had completely, irrevocably snapped. Consumed by guilt and terror, her mind had fled reality. The courtroom was in an uproar. I sat in the corner, watching her. She was insane. Perfect. To live, fully aware of your sins, is a punishment. But to be insane, trapped forever in a hell of your own making, is a far greater one. Where'd they send her? To Riverview Behavioral Health, of course. I was sure Dr. Evans would take good care of her. I sent him a text message. The Davenport heiress is coming your way. I trust you'll give her your full attention. Her condition is severe. His reply was immediate. Rest assured, Mr. Harrison. She will receive special consideration. He knew exactly what I meant. Brooke Davenport, you wanted to send someone to a psych ward? Your wish has been granted. May it be your eternal abyss. The house of Davenport had fallen. Everyone who hurt my brother had paid. Kyle Peters was in the ground. Scar and his crew were rotting in a tunnel. Blake was on death row. Arthur was a paralyzed prisoner. And Brooke was locked in a cage of madness. I stood up and walked out of the courthouse. The sun was bright. But my brother would never see it again. Was my revenge complete? No. There was one last thing to do. #6. The Davenport case was closed. The gray skies over Pittsburgh seemed a little brighter. I had done it. The guilty were dead or broken. Before his execution, the friends I'd made on the inside paid Blake a final visit. They broke all 10 of his fingers one by one. They took a hammer to his chest. He died in the same agony he had inflicted on my brother. Arthur Davenport wasted away in a state-run nursing home, neglected and abused, covered in bed sores, fully lucid but unable to speak or move. A fate worse than death. Brooke was in the maximum security wing at Riverview. She spent her days screaming Owen's name. On my instructions, Dr. Evans had her on a special cocktail of antipsychotics that induced vivid, terrifying hallucinations. For the rest of her life, she would see Owen's bloody ghost coming for her. My revenge was absolute. I stood in front of Owen's grave. The headstone was new, clean. In the photo, Owen was smiling that gentle smile, his eyes bright. No blood, no bruises, just the kind, innocent boy I remembered. A breeze rustled the grass. Owen. I knelt, my fingers tracing the cold stone. I did it. I got them all for you. The ones who hurt you. They're gone. Did it hurt? I made sure they hurt more. The icy shards of my chest were gone. In their place was just a void, an emptiness. The world was so big, and I was completely alone. I took a small box from my pocket. Inside were 2 simple silver rings. Cheap ones Owen had bought in secret. The last time he visited me, he'd slipped them to me, his face flushed with excitement.
Cole,
He'd whispered.
after I'm married, I'll save up enough money to get you out. We'll get a place together again. One for you, one for me. Brothers forever.
He never got the chance to wear his. I slipped one of the rings onto my own finger. I placed the other on the ledge of the headstone. Owen, you never had your wedding, but I was watching. I did one last thing. I bought the foreclosed Davenport mansion at a state auction. I used the last of Blake's blood money. I scrubbed the house clean of every trace of them, and then I remade it, exactly as Owen had always dreamed. White walls, hardwood floors, huge windows that let in the sun. I filled the garden with sunflowers, his favorite. In the center of the living room, I hung a single life-size portrait. It was Owen's wedding photo. The bride's side was empty. It was just him, in his white tuxedo, smiling gently at the camera. I'd made it myself, compositing his image onto the backdrop of the ceremony, digitally erasing all the ugly people and all the ugliness. It was perfect, clean. I took the raw wedding footage and re-edited it. I cut out Kyle Peters entirely. I digitally replaced Brooke's face with a generic, smiling woman. I changed the shocked expressions of the guests to looks of joy and celebration. I even added myself into the scene, standing beside him, as his best man, watching him get married. I uploaded this perfect wedding video to a private, encrypted cloud server. Then, I paid one last visit to Riverview. Dr. Evans was smart enough to clear the ward. Brooke was huddled in a corner, her eyes vacant, muttering to herself.
Owen, stay away. It wasn't me. It hurts.
She didn't recognize me. I mounted an iPad to the wall in front of her, just out of her reach. The screen lit up. It began to play my creation. The perfect wedding. Owen, smiling, happy, completing his vows. No blood, no screams, no violence. Then, the video would cut abruptly to the evidence of her sin. Kyle's confession, Scar's dying words, Blake's perp walk, Arthur's drooling face, and her own pathetic, screaming breakdown in the courtroom. Finally, it would show the photo from the morgue. Owen's broken body on a cold steel slab. The images and sounds would play on an endless, torturous loop, 24 hours a day. Look, Brooke, I whispered, crouching in front of her. This is the happiness you destroyed. This is the truth you can never escape. You will sit here and watch it, day after day, until you die. You will never be redeemed. She shrieked and threw herself against the wall. It was useless. The walls of her cell were padded. She couldn't escape, and she couldn't die. This was her final, eternal punishment. I went back to the house, Owen's house. I sat on the couch. My phone rang. The caller ID said Pittsburgh Police Department. Mr. Harrison, we have a few more questions about your brother's case and the related Davenport investigation. Also, there appear to be some irregularities with your discharge from Riverview, and we have reason to believe you may be connected to the deaths of Kyle Peters and several known associates of Blake Davenport. It was time. I smiled. A feeling of calm washed over me. I killed people. I broke the law. I wasn't afraid. Okay, I said. I'll be waiting. I hung up. I looked at Owen's smiling portrait. Owen, I'm done. I'm coming to you now. I picked up the fruit knife from the coffee table, the same one I'd used on Kyle. I drew the blade across my wrist. Warm blood flowed out. It didn't hurt. Not at all. What Owen went through hurt a million times more. When the police kicked in the door, I was lying on the sofa, the world fading to gray. I heard them shouting, calling for an ambulance. I stared at the ceiling, and I saw him. Owen. He was wearing a clean white shirt, running toward me, just like he did when he was a little boy. He threw his arms around me.
Cole.
His eyes were bright. No fear, no pain. I held him tight. He was so warm. It's okay, Owen. I'm here.
I'm taking you home.
Will they save me? Maybe. And if they do, what then? They can put me on trial, lock me in prison, or send me back to Riverview. It doesn't matter. My soul died the moment I saw Owen's body. What was left was just a vessel for revenge. Now, the revenge is complete. The vessel is no longer needed. If I live, I'll wait quietly in a cell for the end. If I die, even better. I'll get to be with my Owen. I'll tell him how much I missed him. I'll tell him that no one can ever hurt us again. Never again. The darkness folded in, swallowing me whole. It's so quiet now.